Welcome aboard the cosmic journey that is the Spirituality with Ashley podcast, where we dive deep into the mystical realms of metaphysics and spirituality. I'm your host, Ashley, a certified Akashic Records reader and energy healer and trained psychic medium. You're in the right place if you're ready to expand your consciousness and unlock the wisdom and insights that light up our path of self-discovery and growth. If you enjoy the show, please give it a 5-star rating and share it with friends and family. Come along with me on this journey of exploration where the universe speaks and we listen with open hearts. Let's dive in. Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Spirituality with Ashley show. It just feels so weird to call it a show, but essentially, technically, it's a show. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the Spirituality with Ashley podcast. If you're an OG listener, welcome back. What up, fam? Okay, so if you caught the last episode, we talked about how to get the most out of an Akashic Records reading, what to do before, what to do during, what to do after in order to really maximize your experience. And if you have not checked out that episode, I encourage you to go check it out. Be sure to give it a listen because I'm kind of doing this thing where I want episodes to kind of build on each other. So this episode is building on that episode, kind of. This one's about channeling, which I mean, I did talk about channeling in the other episode, but I was really talking about me channeling. But I also want to empower you guys to be able to channel and embrace your channeling abilities so that you can access your Akashic records and be able to channel the information for yourself. I love doing these readings for you guys, but I also want to make sure that I'm empowering you to do them for yourselves because we all have the ability to do it for ourselves. I absolutely also understand the luxury of having somebody else doing it for you and just kind of like sitting back and enjoying getting the messages. So if that's your jam, then by all means, I love getting readings. I could do readings for myself, but I love getting readings from other people. It's fun. So I'm here for it. And I love doing readings for other people. All right. So today we're talking about something I get asked about all the time, channeling. And here's the thing, we all channel. I'm just going to clear that up now. Every single one of us channels every single day throughout the day, whether you realize it or not. We each have our own unique way of receiving intuitive guidance, and we each channel. So, through my own journey of developing my intuition, I've come to the realization that no two people channel exactly the same way. And we each have our own very individual, unique style. And by discovering and then understanding your style, it can totally change the way that you connect with your higher self and the spiritual realms. Holy crap. So, one thing that I've noticed through doing a bunch of readings and helping people to develop their own intuition is that we all have at least one dominant clairsense. And that's the intuitive sense that comes most naturally to you. You might not even realize that it's an intuitive gift because it can feel so normal for you to use. And some people have a secondary clairsense and maybe even a third in some cases, but there's always one that's the strongest and easiest for you to tap into. And in this episode, we're going to break it all down, how to identify your dominant clairsense, what it means for your personal channeling style, and then how to start working with it. So whether you're just beginning to explore your intuition or you've been on this path for a while, today's episode is all about helping you to unlock your unique way that you channel. And of course, in my Akashic Records readings and my Soul Gifts and Purpose readings, I help people tap into and understand their spiritual gifts and their intuitive senses, including your dominant clairsense. It's such a powerful part of connecting with your soul and living in alignment with your true purpose. So if you're interested in getting a reading about that, then I'm happy to do it. I think the Akashic Records readings will tell you that. So the channeled Akashic Records reading, I can tell you what your dominant clairsense is. And then the Soul Gifts and Purpose reading, I tell you about your dominant clairsense and I tell you about all the ways that it manifests for you. And then in the Akashic Soul Blueprint reading, it just goes deep into everything. Okay, so let's get this episode started. Grab a cup of tea or your glass of water, get comfy, and let's get into this discovery of your unique channeling style. All right. So, what is channeling? Let's kick things off by just talking about what channeling really is, and more importantly, what it is not. There are so many misconceptions out there. Jesus, especially with the internet. They're just all over the place. especially that the idea of channeling is always about seeing images or visions, like you're watching a movie play out in your head. And I mean, clairvoyance or clear seeing is definitely a form of channeling. And clairvoyance, clear seeing, that's where you see the visions or like movie scenes playing out in your mind. But it's just one of many ways that you can connect with spiritual guidance. I just think it's the most popular. It's shared and talked about a lot. And so channeling can actually happen through all of the different clairsenses. So clairvoyance is clear seeing, and that's when you get intuitive information through visuals or images, anything that's vision related. So think your eyes. And then clairsentience is clear feeling. And so anytime you feel guidance through your body, like you feel emotions, you feel physical sensations, you feel energies physically, that's clairsentience. So gut feelings, goosebumps, that kind of stuff. And then clairaudience is clear hearing, and that's when you hear messages, whether it's words, music, sounds, you will hear things. You'll interpret messages through your auditory sense. And then claircognizance is clear knowing, and that's when you just know something without being able to explain how. You'll just know the thing. You'll have a thought pop up into your head, or you'll intuit the information through a different way, or you'll just be like, "Oh my gosh, I know that this is the situation. I know that this is the answer. I know that this is what's happening." That's what claircognizance is like. It's very much, I always I always have my hands on top of my head and like bring it down like I'm bringing something into my head. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see me doing it, or if you're watching it on Spotify. But I do that because the way that I think about claircognizance, the first way that I learned about it was it's like getting these downloads, which just imagine, do you know those things that they had? I don't know if they still have them at like drive-through banks, but those little like canister containers, and you stick it in, and it goes and it gets sucked through the pipes and into the bank. That is how I imagine claircognizance. Like we have these energetic pipes that go to our head up into or from the universe or the quantum field, and knowledge will just drop into our awareness through one of these pipes, like boop, drops into your head, and then you completely understand whatever the concept is. Usually with a download, it'll be some complex subject. Like after I connected with the seven, the group of ETs that are my guides, they, after I connected with them, they gave me a couple of downloads. And one of them, I was in the shower, and all of a sudden, out of absolutely nowhere, I just suddenly understood how time works on Earth, in our dimension that we're in every capacity. I understood how time works. It was so complex and mind-blowing, and it was in the split second I suddenly understood, could see everything, understood the ins and outs. I could have explained it like a college professor. I can't now because I didn't write it down or do anything with it. So it's in my subconscious somewhere, but consciously I wouldn't be able to explain it to you now. So that's why I'm always telling you, like, hey, journal, write your stuff down, write things down. It might feel really clear and really understandable at the time, but as you move through your life, if you don't commit the things to memory by writing them down, by talking about them, they'll fly away. They'll just kind of disintegrate into the background, kind of like when you have dreams. We all dream. It's just that not everybody is able to remember their dreams on command, which is why writing them down or talking about them or taking a few minutes when you wake up to think about what you were dreaming will help to kind of solidify it a little more. Okay, got a little bit off topic. So back to the clairsenses. So we went over what the different clairsenses are. Clairvoyance is the most talked about one or most popular one when it comes to discussing channeling. So I was just looking at the time because I'm recording this on Zoom, and I was sitting here doing other stuff. So I'm not actually sure how long this episode is. So I need to keep an eye. I normally try to keep an eye on it. So I guess we will see. Okay. I just got distracted. Sorry about that. Actually, no, I'm not sorry about that. I'm trying not to apologize for everything. I got distracted. It happens. We're all human. Bringing it back to the episode. All right. So when it comes to your clairsenses and channeling, the tricky part about this is that people often expect that channeling will look like clairvoyance because that's the one that gets the most attention. Or people might also associate it with clairsentience because feeling things physically or emotionally can be very like pronounced. It can be a very obvious, very strong thing that you feel. But this is the thing, and I keep hitting the mic. This is the thing, guys. Every clairsense is equally powerful. I'm going to say that again. Every clairsense is equally powerful. Just because someone does not see images does not mean that they're not channeling. In fact, you might be an incredible claircognizant, the one where you have the pipe going into your head and knowledge just drops in there. You might be incredibly claircognizant, but you don't realize it because you expect to see or feel something. So it's really, really, really important to let go of these preconceived notions about what channeling should look like and start noticing how you naturally receive information. I think some people think that their clairsenses or their gifts are blocked, and it's just that they're not recognizing how they're actually showing up for them. Because I remember when I was trying to get into the Akashic records, and I think I'm going to talk about this, but I'm going to mention it now too. So whatever, I get to do what I want to do. It's my podcast. So when I first started accessing the Akashic records and I was practicing, I was trying because I was reading books. I was going through different teachers who were claircognizant, who were clairvoyant. A lot of people are clairvoyant. It's a very common gift. And so I expected that when I got into the Akashic records, I would know I was there by seeing all the things and I would just see everything. And because that's not how I was experiencing it every single time, I thought there was something wrong with me or that I was doing it wrong. And that is not the case. So, okay. This subject about preconceived notions about channeling, what it should look like, and how you actually do it. This comes up in readings. It comes up in a lot of the readings that I do outside of the energy clearing emotion code sessions. So when I'm doing like channeled readings for people, what was I saying? So in your Akashic Soul Blueprint, I briefly go over your dominant clairsenses. And it's also part of the Soul Gifts and Purpose reading, which is kind of like a mini version of the Akashic Soul Blueprint reading. And then in the Channeled Akashic Records reading, I also tell you what your dominant I can tell you what your dominant clairsense is if you're interested. Sometimes people don't even have to ask me. I'm just like, hey, this is your dominant clairsense, because that information will come through. Or you can ask and it'll come through too. But either way, it could be really helpful in helping you to start developing it, just understanding what your dominant one is. Okay, so we're supposed to be talking about what is channeling, and I haven't actually said what channeling is yet. So what is channeling really? It is simply the process of receiving and interpreting information. Channeling is just you being a human radio, whether that's from higher realms, whether it's from your spirit guides, or even your own higher self, or just the universe. You're just channeling information. It's basically like a two-way conversation where you're open to the guidance that's coming through in whatever form it shows up for you. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people to uncover their intuitive senses and unique channeling style, because once you know how you channel, it gets so much easier to trust what you're receiving. So in my Akashic Records readings and Soul Gifts and Purpose readings, I often help people to get clarity on how they naturally channel the best. And once you understand your dominant clairsense, you can lean into it and develop that skill, which makes connecting with your intuition a lot more powerful. So in the Soul Gifts and Purpose reading, I actually go over all the ways that your dominant clairsense manifests for you. So let's say that you're clairsentient and you can feel energy. One person with this dominant clairsense might feel emotions of others very deeply, while another person who has the dominant clairsense of clairsentient, clear feeling, that person might be more medically oriented. So like a medical intuitive who can feel specific ailments in the body and tell you exactly where it is and what's causing it. So it's the same clairsense, clairsentience, the clear feeling, but two different manifestations. So this is why it can be really life-changing to understand which intuitive senses you're more inclined to use, which clairsense, hearing, clear seeing, clear feeling, clear knowing, and then also how your intuitive senses work specifically for you. Because once you find your dominant clairsense and you're like, okay, I'm clairvoyant. Clairvoyance can happen in so many different ways. And each of us has a unique combination of traits for how our gift is going to be expressed for us, or how we're going to express that intuitive sense. So that's why I keep saying that it can be so helpful to get these readings, because even if you do the exercises, because I am going to give you like some I'm going to give you an exercise to kind of figure out what your dominant clairsense is, and then I'm also going to, well, I'm going to give you some ways to do it. But after you figure out your dominant clairsense, it's also really, really helpful. And I haven't always done this, but I started doing it recently in readings because I realized with working with people that when you only know your dominant clairsense and you don't understand how that sense manifests for you, like how you actually use it, it can be really confusing because you could still be expecting it to happen a different way, and that's not the way that it works for you. So, and I feel like I actually want to give you a few examples, but I don't think, and I wanted to be really specific about it, but whatever. I'm doing a bunch of different episodes about this stuff. So I can have an episode just about that, which would probably be better so that I can stay on track for this one because I need to keep it moving. Okay. So let's talk about finding your dominant clairsense, since I just built up the whole process anyway. Okay. Also, if you're hearing me say words funnily, I don't know why I'm doing it today. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just so excited to talk about this stuff. I love it so much. Okay. I also really need to keep drinking way more water. I've not been drinking enough water lately. All right. I'm talking to you guys like we're at a coffee shop. But you know what? That's what I like about this. Let's keep it very grounded and real, like we're having a conversation. I like that. Okay. Let's talk about how to identify your dominant clairsense. This is the intuitive sense that will come most naturally to you. It might be seeing images, it might be hearing messages, feeling sensations, or just having a deep sense of knowing, like the bank teller things. Just let me know if that keeps popping into your head now, if I have created that association for you, because that is every single time I mention it, that's what I'm picturing now. So DM me or comment on this podcast. Let me know right now if you keep picturing the bank teller thing, little tubes. All right. So here is the thing. Your dominant clairsense will often feel so natural to you that you don't realize you're using it as an intuitive gift. So, for example, if you are naturally claircognizant, bank teller thing, you might just know things without knowing how you know. So you might also just think that everybody has this ability, or that it's just like your brain being super logical. But in reality, it's your intuition doing its dang thing. So the same goes for the other clairsenses. Maybe you get gut feelings a lot, or you pick up on other people's emotions. You're probably more clairsentient, clear feeling. If you tend to hear words or songs, or you notice lyrics from songs, or you really feel music in your body, or you hear sounds in your mind, like you hear bells and tones changing, then you might be more clairaudient, hearing. And if you see colors, symbols, images, movies, if you picture what people are saying while they're talking to you, so somebody's telling you a story and you are just playing it out in your mind, then clairvoyance is probably your dominant clairsense. So how do you discover which one is strongest for you? And the key is to try different methods to kind of like see what pops up for you. So here's one of my favorite exercises for determining what your strongest clairsense is. So find a quiet spot, sit somewhere where you can be comfortable, where you're not going to be disturbed for a few minutes, and then close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to center yourself. And then you can do this step or you can omit this step. It's up to you. If you want to keep it super simple, just sit there, see how you're taking in information with your eyes closed. Are you picking up on sounds? Are you visualizing things? Like pay attention to everything happening in your environment, but keep your eyes closed while you're doing it. And set the intention while you're sitting there. Be like, I'm going to just tap into the energies around me and see how I experience them. And then sit there for a few minutes, breathe, just be mindful, be in the moment. You don't need to clear your head so much as just allow your thoughts to pass through like clouds that you're not really judging. You're not giving meaning to them. You're just like, oh, there's a thought. Cool. Let it go. Oh, there's another one. Okay. Let it go. And as you're sitting there doing that, just imagine your heart space opening up. Imagine yourself opening up, allowing you and your energy field to pick up on energies, and then see what you pay most attention to. Maybe you paid more attention to sounds. Maybe you've started visualizing a bunch of stuff. Maybe you could feel sensations in your body all of a sudden as you created that space to receive. The other way that I was saying you can do this is to, once you're sitting somewhere comfortable, is silently ask your higher self, your spirit guides, the universe, source, however you like to refer to it. Ask your higher self, I'm going to say higher self in this case, to give you an intuitive message in whatever form it wants to come through. And this could be a word, a feeling, an image, a knowing. The goal is to just be open to receiving without any expectations about what it should be like. And so the difference is you can either ask a question or ask for a message, or you can just sit there and see how you're receiving, because you're always receiving stuff regardless of whether you actually ask a question or not. You have questions all the time. So whether you sit there and intentionally are like, this is my question that I'm asking, you're already asking questions throughout your life. Like, you already have questions. So no pressure. If you don't have one that just comes into your head at that moment, you can just sit there and try to pick up energy. But if you are somebody who wants to ask a message and you like all the different steps, then, ask for a message. Then once you are sitting there taking in the information, or you've asked for a message and you're ready to receive it, pay attention to how the message comes to you or how the things come to you. Are you seeing colors? Are you seeing images? Or are you seeing symbols? You're probably going to be more clairvoyant. Are you feeling physical sensations? Are you feeling emotions? That's probably clairsentience. Are you hearing any words or sounds or music? It's probably clairaudience. And if you suddenly just know or understood something without understanding how, then it's probably claircognizance. And then after a few minutes, open your eyes, take note of what you experienced. Did you feel more strongly connected to one of the senses? What came through the easiest? What felt the most natural? Were there two that stood out? Were you seeing images and then you were also feeling sensations in your body? And then just try that exercise on different days, in different settings, at different times, because sometimes you're going to be more receptive than others. If you're stressed and you have a lot of stuff on your, I want to say docket, if you have a lot of stuff on your docket for the day in your schedule, you might not be as apt to receiving, because your brain, you're already thinking about all the things that you have to do. So try it at different times, different days, different places, and just pay attention to any patterns. As always, life is about patterns, man. At least I feel like it is. That's because I love patterns. And how you receive the information. Sorry. I'm just here interjecting all these extra comments that are absolutely unnecessary. Pay attention to pay attention to how patterns are showing up for you as you receive information. And that can kind of give you a clear indication of what your dominant clairsense is. All right. So now a lot of people get really caught up in thinking that they need to be clairvoyant to be a good channeler. And again, clairvoyance is clear seeing. And I totally get it, because I used to think that way too. I thought channeling was all about seeing movies in my mind or getting these vivid visions. But the more that I worked with my intuition, the more I realized that I'm actually very clairsentient and I'm really clairaudient. And I am clairvoyant also. I'm a super visual person. Oh my gosh. But I am also very clairaudient. And clairsentient. I honestly haven't done my own thing to see what my dominant one is, because I didn't know. Oop, just hit the mic again. I'm getting really excited. I didn't know about all these nuances, and I just now, because I know how my intuition works, I don't care to get the specifics about it, because sometimes I can get very distracted by things. So feeling through it is the easiest way for me to do it at this point, because that's just what I'm used to. So I really feel energy in my body, and I often will hear messages or words in my mind. And my clairvoyance and claircognizance are still there, but they just show up differently. And they're more supportive, and they kind of work in the background to support my primary clairsenses. So my dominant clairsenses are the first ones that I'll use. They kind of turn on my clairsensometer. What am I? You know what? Whatever. We're flowing with it. So my dominant clairsense isn't always the strongest one that I'm using. So it's kind of like my clairsentience is like the gateway where I will that'll turn on everything. So it's like, okay, I'm going to be intuitive now. I'm starting a reading. I'll connect with your energy field or connect with your Akashic records. And then clairsentience turns on, and then I start feeling the things. And then once I felt the things and I start interpreting those things, then all my other clairsenses turn on like little light bulbs. And then I'll start seeing messages and hearing things, and I'll get downloads and I'll feel things. And then I just interpret all of that information as it's coming through. I might hear a lot of stuff and see a little bit of stuff. I might feel a lot of stuff, see nothing. Like, it just really depends. So don't get stuck on thinking that you need to see visions for it to count. Your strongest clear sense might surprise you, and that's the beauty of this whole process. Everybody's unique. And once you find your dominant clear sense, it's like unlocking the door to deeper intuition. Whew. All right. So when I first, I want to talk about my channeling experience and evolution, if you will. I can already tell this is going to be a longer episode because it's not even halfway through my notes. And I've definitely been talking for probably about 20 minutes at this point. All right. So when I first started developing my intuition, I had this idea in my head that channeling was mostly about clairvoyance. As I've already mentioned, I like to repeat myself. So I thought it was going to be like seeing vivid movies in your mind, getting crystal clear images, or receiving all these like symbolic visuals. And I honestly thought that if I wasn't getting those types of visions, then maybe I wasn't doing it right. So many channelers and readings that I've had, and channelers that I've seen do interviews on Gaia and things like that, they all seem to be clairvoyant and talk about what they were seeing. And I'm also very super visual. So I expected to have a similar experience. And that as soon as I started channeling, I'd see super clear movies and images and just know what everything meant. This is definitely not how it worked for me. But over time, I realized that my strongest clairsenses weren't clairvoyance at all. Instead, I'm actually primarily clairsentient and clairaudient, I think. So for me, it's less about seeing things initially, and I'm pretty sure I just explained this, but I'm back to my script. So for me, it's about seeing things initially. Wait, it's not. Oh, for the love. So for me, it's less about seeing things initially and more about feeling energy and receiving auditory messages. And then I'll pick up on sensations in my bodies or emotions that don't feel like mine. And I'll often hear words or sentences in my mind that like give me insight or guidance about it. And while my clairvoyance and claircognizance are definitely there, they tend to play more of a supportive role. And sometimes they'll show up in more subtle ways. So I might get a flash of an image while I'm interpreting other senses, or maybe I'll just know something really fast, but then I have to tap back into another clairsense. Like, it's really interesting. And so anyway, I've noticed that as I've developed my intuition, that my clairvoyance is a lot stronger. So I'll see things way more clearly now. I'll have more control over that skill, so I can enhance it, tone it down. I can ask for specific things in the context of using my clairvoyance. So I can ask my guides to show me something. I can ask them, like, if I am getting a mental image or a movie scene or something, and I'm not interpreting it, I can also ask, like, hey, give me more, tell me what this means. And then I'll hear it. Or I can ask them to show me another scene. I can ask them to show me a scene from the past, ask them to like help me to feel what my client is feeling, so that I can, create that connection, build that rapport, so that they know that I really am feeling the things, so that we can have some trust and move along with the session. So anyway, it really just depends on who I'm doing a reading for. And I think this is really interesting because I'm sure that it's not just me. One of the coolest things I've noticed during my readings is that when I'm connecting with somebody else's energy, my clear senses can actually shift depending on their natural gifts. So if somebody is more clairvoyant, I'll see a lot more visuals during their reading. If they're more clairsentient, I will feel their emotions and physical sensations more strongly. It's almost like I'm tuning into their intuitive frequency to make sure that the messages are received in the way that resonates most with them. So when you get a reading with me, I will generally communicate to you in the same way that your intuitive messages will come through to you. So I'm able to say it in a way that will get through to you or make sense to you. It's actually super cool. It helps me to communicate in a way that works for you. And I set that intention before every reading. Like, I'm going to communicate these things in the way that you need to get them so that they make sense for you. So One of the biggest things that helped me to hone my channeling abilities was just practicing consistently. You cannot get around it, guys. You can't get around it. I wanted to get around it. I was obsessed, though. I tend to get obsessive and I'm like, oh, I just want to jump in and do all the things and I'm going to do it right now and I'm going to do it every day and I'm so excited about it. and I'll do that for a little while and then I'm like, oh, don't care about this. Now I want to do this other thing. So practicing at least on an almost daily basis is what you need. If you could do it every single day, perfect. If you could do multiple times a day, even better. So I made it a point to try out different techniques, and whether it was meditation, journaling, working with cards, to see what worked best for me. And the more I practiced, the clearer my messages became. And I started to really trust the guidance that I was receiving. And I really started learning to trust myself when I journaled about whatever my intuition practice was that day, because I would check back a few weeks or months later and I would be able to see the patterns or things that I received intuitively. I'd be able to see that they actually played out in real life. And it was really cool and it made me just want to keep doing it more. I would get the validation that like, oh, that was accurate, which is just, ooh, it's such a good feeling. And I also spent a lot of time learning about the different ways that people channel. There's so many ways to connect with intuitive guidance. And once I let go of the idea that I had to do it in a very specific way, I opened up to this whole new world. And I realized that understanding my own strengths and preferences was key. I didn't need to compare myself to anyone else or feel gift envy where I'm like, oh, I wish I was clairvoyant because that would be really cool. It feels like it's easier. Like, no, we're not doing that. We all have our own unique gifts and they're all amazing. We are all absolutely freaking amazing. So I learned to appreciate and develop my own style, which made the whole process so much more empowering. It got so much easier when I stopped trying to do it the way that I saw other people doing it. Ain't that the way it goes? So, something that actually really helped me with this whole process of just letting go of how other people did it and trying to really embrace the way that I did it was by hearing other people's experiences of how they channel or how they got their channeling style. And so, my Akashic Records teachers, two of them, because I've taken a bunch of Akashic Records courses, but one of my favorite courses that I took was with Lorena and Lucia Espiga. And oh my gosh, they are definitely mowing the lawn outside. I hope you can't hear it. So Lorena and Lucia Espiga are sisters. They teach how to read the Akashic Records. They also do readings and a bunch of other stuff. Check them out. I think both of them, their websites are their names, luciaespiga.com, lorenaespiga.com. They also have the Soul Tribe podcast, which is great. So definitely check that out too. They're amazing. And it helped me so much when I listened to Lorena's experience learning how to channel the Akashic Records and to develop her intuition. So her sister, Lucia, is super clairvoyant. She's amazing. And that's how Lorena thought her intuition would work. So when she was trying to access the Akashic Records, she kept trying to be clairvoyant in doing that, and it wasn't working as well for her. And so she was like, what the heck? And finally, she learned that she also had to let go of thinking that her gifts were going to look like her sisters. And she had to embrace how she really channels. And so she learned that she will feel the information before she sees it. And so she also uses all of her clairsenses, but I think her clairsentience is her gateway, which is why it was so helpful for me because that's how I am. Oh, she's so great. I relate to so much stuff that she talks about. They're both great. I love Lucia and Lorena, honestly. They're so different, it's wild. Um, so yeah. So Lorena's really great at navigating emotions, feelings. She'd make an incredible therapist. And so when I heard about her experience, it really resonated with me because I had the same preconceived notion. I thought I wasn't able to access the Akashic Records because I didn't immediately see stuff every time I tried, only some of the time, and it wasn't even super clear. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys some examples of channeling styles because yes, you have a dominant clairsense, but like I said, you have at least one dominant clairsense. Some people have two, some people have three clairsenses that are dominant or like very much right there. So everyone has at least one dominant clairsense though, and then you still have the ability to use your other clairsenses, develop your other clairsenses. And so usually people use more than one, clairsense when they're channeling. So I'm working on a little guide, actually, that I want to put out with a quiz, and I want to give these descriptions to help people see what their unique combination is. Because, oh my gosh, I think that would just be so helpful. I wish I had all this stuff. I would have gotten there so much faster. But the way that I went through things needed to happen. I'm happy with who I am and where I'm at. So, no regrets. All right. So some of the different types of combinations and styles, and they have names because I love giving things names. So if you are clairvoyant and claircognizant, and those are your favorite clairs that you use dominantly, you are a visual storyteller. So again, clairvoyance is clear seeing, so you see things. Claircognizance is clear knowing, so you see and you know intuitively. So if you were a visual storyteller, then for clairvoyance, you'll probably receive intuitive guidance primarily through vivid images, symbols, or scenes in your mind, like watching a movie. And the visuals might provide insight into past, present, future events, into whatever. And then your claircognizance, your clear knowing, the bank teller tube, when people are claircognizant, they often have a deep inner knowing of what the images mean without needing to interpret them very much. And so the visuals and the knowing combined give you a full picture. And so an example of how this would work is during a reading, they might see this vibrant image of like a flower blossoming and then just know that this symbolizes a person's personal growth and transformation. That is how a visual storyteller would work. You're using claircognizance, and then you're also using clairvoyance, and you put those two things together in order to interpret messages. Another example is somebody who is clairsentient, so feeling, and clairaudient, hearing. And that is an energy healer, the energy healer archetype. So for clairsentience, they would feel intuitive guidance through their body and pick up on energetic blockages or areas of imbalance, stuff like that. And then the clairaudience part would be they'd be able to tune into feelings, or as they tune into feelings, they'd be able to hear messages through words or sounds that give them specific instructions on how to guide the healing process. And so, for example, during a healing session, that might be where they like will feel heat in their hands, indicating where to focus their energy, while simultaneously hearing a message like this person needs to release fear. And so you would use the heat in your hands and do the energy work on the person, and then intuitively you would know you were doing energy work on helping them to release fear and then do your thing. So interesting, right? And then another example is claircognizance, so the clear knowing, clairsentience, the feeling, and clairvoyance, seeing. So you know, you feel, and you see. And this is the sensory interpreter. So for claircognizance, the person would have strong claircognizance, remember that's clear knowing. That person would have very strong intuitive knowings about things, and it's their way of receiving information. They just know what's going on or what needs to happen without any clear sensory input. And then clairsentience would be maybe they occasionally feel sensations in their body that confirm or elaborate what they know, which helps them to deepen the intuitive insight. So you get your claircognizance intuitive insight. So the drops into your mind, that knowledge, and then all of a sudden you get goosebumps letting you know, like, oh, this is really good information. This is aligned for you. This is important. That's what the goosebumps let you know through clairsentience. And then your clairvoyance will turn on, and maybe you'll see a quick flash of an image that supports what you're feeling, that supports the goosebump feeling. So maybe you'll see a quick like flash of light or an angelic figure. And the clairvoyance, so the clairvoyance, the clear seeing, will help to support what you're feeling or knowing, but it might not be as pronounced. And so, for example, you might just know that a client or your friend needs to focus on their heart chakra, and then you'll feel this tingling sensation in your chest as confirmation, and then you'll briefly see a green light or the color of the heart chakra. And that's kind of how you put it all together. That is what it's like when I'm doing a reading. So I'll get this information from all of my different senses. Some of it's a lot of information, some of it's just a little information to support or further validate something, and then I share all of that as a message. I hope that clarifies. So Each combination of clairsenses creates a very unique channeling style, so it's really important for you to trust and then also continue exploring how your clairsenses work together. There's no right or wrong way to channel, just your own way. One of the most important things that I've learned, and something I always tell my clients, everybody, is that there's no one size fits all when it comes to channeling, when it comes to your intuition. Everyone channels differently, and that's exactly how it should be. It's about discovering what feels most natural for you and leaning into that rather than trying to copy what somebody else is doing. This is something that I focus on in some of my readings. I really try to help you to understand your unique intuitive abilities and show you how to tap into your natural strengths. And that's kind of what we do during the Soul Gifts and Purpose reading, which is not live, it's just a written document, but I write all the things out. And actually, I'm moving away from that and I'm going to do more audio recording stuff. But the Akashic Soul Blueprint, we also talk about that. And then we also talk about it in the Channeled Akashic Records reading, how to understand your intuitive abilities and how you can tap into your natural strengths. Okay, so it's not about a rigid formula. It's not about following the specific set of steps. It's not about just doing a third eye clearing meditation. It's about finding the flow that works for you and trusting that your style is perfect for your journey and that it's okay for you to just be who you are, the way that you are, because you were perfect the way that you are. You're enough. Okay. So let's talk about interpreting your intuitive insights, which I just talked about a little bit with the combinations, because the combination can help you to interpret sometimes. But let's say you're just working with your dominant clairsense, you're taking it one step at a time. And the one step at a time would be, first, let's just find out what your dominant clairsense is. Let's get comfortable with that and work with that, and then start exploring the combinations and other things. But let's keep it simple and then add on to it. So interpreting intuitive insights. This is a key part of channeling because the way that you receive messages, first of all, might surprise you. But the biggest thing to remember here is to be really open. Stay open to however the insights want to come through. And that could be as an image, as a feeling, a sound, a deep inner knowing. And for some people, the messages will come as like flashes of imagery. Maybe you'll see a symbol, or maybe you'll get a quick mental picture, which would be like your clairvoyance at work. Others might feel it in their body, like a sensation in your chest or gut instinct, clairsentience, excuse me. And other people who tend to hear things, it might be a voice, words, music, that's clairaudience. So it's important to embrace the fact that intuitive messages will come in all, excuse me, why am I like, am I burping? Is this hiccups? I don't know what's happening. It's because I'm talking so much and I need to sit up straight. Oh my gosh. So it's really important to embrace the fact that intuitive messages come in all forms, and they're often more subtle than we expect. That is the kicker for me. They can be so subtle. Sometimes it's ridiculous. It's like you really have to create space. Sometimes they're very strong and in your face, but sometimes they're very subtle. I think most of the time they're probably more subtle. So you might have an idea of how you think your intuition should work, but when you're open to receiving in any form, it becomes a lot easier to trust what you're picking up. So don't get in your head about it. When you do get an intuitive hit, the key is to reflect on it. And I think I've already mentioned this before. Like I said, I repeat myself, but repetition helps you put it into your brain. You might understand it the first time that I say it, but hearing it over and over is really solidifying that concept for you. So it's helpful. It's a thing. It's a thing teachers do. My mom used to do it all the time. And I was like, stop repeating yourself. God, I hated it. But it's helpful. I'm learning that, as far as psychology in your brain is concerned, it can be helpful. Okay. So when you get an intuitive hit, the key is to reflect on it, not to brush it off. Sit with it and see what comes up. And then over time, you'll probably start to notice patterns, maybe even certain feelings or symbols that keep coming up. And then the patterns will give you clues about how your intuition is communicating with you. So I want to share a few easy exercises that you can start doing right now to help you develop your interpretation skills. So the first thing that I always recommend is keeping an intuition journal. This one's super helpful, so powerful. Every day, just take a few minutes to write down any intuitive feelings or thoughts or physical sensations that you've experienced throughout the day that stood out to you. And then you might not fully understand them at first, and that's okay. Over time, patterns will show up that can help you to understand how your intuition's communicating with you through thoughts, through feelings, through dreams. And then the goal is to track them over time and see if any themes or repeating symbols start to pop up. So maybe you keep dreaming about water, or you feel a certain emotion whenever you're around a particular person. After a while, you'll begin to see that patterns can help you to interpret messages. And when you regularly reflect on your journal entries, it can help you to recognize which insights were accurate and also ultimately help you to strengthen your ability to interpret future messages because you're practicing. It's a skill. Intuitive art or drawing is another exercise if you're artistic, if you're very visual. And so this one's really fun and really good if you're very visual. So whenever you receive an intuitive hit, just try to create like a simple sketch or a drawing of any symbols or colors or images that come to mind. You don't have to be an artist. It's just about getting it like out of you, getting it onto paper, getting it onto your iPad, getting it onto a canvas, whatever medium you use, into the dirt as a sketch with a stick. This is a really, well, maybe not that because then you can't look back on that. And then it rains the next day and your intuitive journaling opportunity has just been washed away. Okay. So anyway, the intuitive art or drawing is a great way to develop your clairvoyance because it also helps to reinforce the message and gives you something tangible to reflect on later. So if you're using a visual outlet to interpret your visual message, that can be really, really helpful. Okay. And you might be more drawn to that if you're visual. Drawn to that. See what I did there? I just had a personal moment. Ugh, I don't like long pauses on podcasts. If you're watching a video and you can see the person's expression, I don't think a long pause is that bad. Like when I do YouTube videos, whatever, long pause all day. But on a podcast, when somebody might just be listening to you and then there's dead airspace, ooh, I got to get over that though. Because, in person, I don't mind silence. I'm fine with it. Silence is great in conversation. I think it gives you time to think about things. But on the podcast, when I do that, like I would in natural conversation, I'm like, ugh, it makes me cringe a little bit. So I'm going to work on that because I'm going to let go of that. No attachments. Okay. The next exercise is body practice or body practice awareness. It's to practice body awareness. This is another exercise to help you to learn how to interpret your intuitive insights. So you can basically learn to tune into your body when you receive an intuitive nudge. And I say learn, but you can do that now without having to like learn or take a class. So when you receive some kind of intuitive hit, just tap into your body, see if you feel any tension. Do you feel calm? Do you feel a tingling in a specific area? And then pay attention to your body's response when making decisions. Your intuition will often speak through physical sensations like a tightness in your chest, a gut feeling, a nauseous wave that flows over you all of a sudden. I used to get like a sharp pain in my head. That still happens to me sometimes. So practice recognizing your body's intuitive language. Another way that you can practice interpreting insights is by asking questions like, is this feeling coming from fear or is this feeling coming from guidance? What am I being guided to do in this situation? Pause and then listen for the answer, which could come through a feeling or an image or a thought. Because, like I said, we all have all of the clairsenses. Your dominant one is just the one that is easiest for you to use. It's just the one that floats to the top. If we had a glass of water and threw a bunch of objects into the glass of water, all the clairsenses, let's say each object is a clairsense, all the clairsenses would go to the bottom. One of them would float to the top. That's your dominant clairsense. It's just the one that's right there. It's like, hey, I'm here. Let's go. Let's do it. But your other clairsenses are still in the glass. You can still grab them very easily. Or if you move the glass around a little bit, they'll float to the top too. So I don't know how I feel about that metaphor or analogy, but we're here. Okay, so when you pause, when you get an intuitive hit and then you ask a clarifying question and then pause for the response, that can help you to build this two-way communication with your intuition and help to refine your interpretation skills. And that's really how I learned how to interpret, because I would do a reading, somebody would ask me a question, I would get information, and then I would ask for clarification. I still do it sometimes. It just depends. Okay. You can also practice with small decisions. So start with like low stakes stuff and just practice trusting and interpreting your intuition. Interpreting can also just mean understanding your intuition. It doesn't always have to be this like huge message that you're interpreting from an image that you received. It could be like choosing what to eat, which route to take, whether or not to reach out to somebody. As you practice making these small decisions based on your intuitive insights, you'll become more comfortable interpreting guidance in bigger situations. You just have to start small and work your way up so there isn't so much pressure. And then another way to interpret intuitive insights or intuitive guidance is by just being aware of external signs and synchronicities that confirm your intuitive feelings. So the universe will often send like subtle confirmations. So you might see repeated numbers, angel numbers, or symbols, or you might run into somebody unexpectedly who was on your mind a whole lot. And so as the universe sends these subtle confirmations, if you are able to notice and you're aware, then you will be able to pick up on the synchronicities and the subtle signs the universe is sending. You'll pick up on how they align with your intuitive insights and potentially answer a question or clarify something for you or validate what you already picked up. So being able to interpret the signs from the universe can reinforce your trust in your intuition. So like, let's say you asked your spirit guides a question about something like, is this a good day to, or would it be in my highest benefit to hang out with this friend today? And then you get this like clench feeling in your stomach. And then you're like, okay, universe, show me, I want to see a blue jay when I go outside on my balcony today. And that's going to be my confirmation that I should not hang out with a friend. That is how you would interpret you can interpret the accuracy of the intuition that you had or the intuitive hit that you had by asking the universe to give you a clarifying message. And that'll help you to interpret the truth of the intuitive hit that you got. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. Okay. There are a ton of ways to learn how to interpret the insights that you receive. These are just a few very practical ways. And the more you practice receiving and interpreting insight, the more confident you'll become in interpreting your insights. And you'll start to trust the way that your intuition works and communicates with you. All right. So I briefly, before wrapping this up, I just wanted to touch on, God, get my freaking chin off this mic. Jesus. I just wanted to touch on some bonus tips for strengthening your channeling style because I love this stuff. And it's basically that consistency is key. Let's skip over this part. Just consistency, be consistent, practice. So the bonus tips for strengthening your channeling style, one thing I always tell people is that consistency is key. Bet you knew I was going to say that, huh? Channeling is just like a muscle. And so the more you use it, the stronger and clearer it becomes. If you want to get better at it, you need to give yourself regular opportunities to connect with it. And the cool thing about intuition is that it's like a muscle, but your results with your intuition are actually a lot faster than gym results. So I compare it to working out a muscle and, building that muscle, but it's so much faster. It's not even a joke. So this doesn't mean that you have to channel for hours every day. It's just more about creating a daily practice that includes some kind of quiet time, meditation, breath work, or even just like a few minutes of stillness to tune in to your intuitive senses. And the more that you consistently practice, the more you'll find that you start to notice the subtle shifts in your awareness. And then those intuitive insights will become clearer and easier to interpret. And it is wild. The amount of my self-awareness has grown so much since I've been working on developing my intuition and that whole realm of stuff. Oh my gosh, like getting to know myself better, really understanding who I am and my soul purpose, my soul gifts, and like actually looking at and embracing my shadows and integrating them, like all of that stuff really helps your intuition. Oh my gosh, because the more aware you are of who you are and of the world around you, the easier it is for you to pick up nuances. All right. So here's something important that I also want to remind you. There is no right or wrong way to channel. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It is all about discovering what feels natural and comfortable for you. Maybe you're more visual. Maybe you feel things deeply. Maybe you just know things without really understanding how. Whatever your style is perfect for you. So don't get caught up in thinking you have to channel in a certain way or that somebody else's method is better, because it's not. Explore without judgment. And most importantly, have fun with it. Have fun, guys. That is really Just love yourself, have fun, look at it as a fun experience, and you're just exploring this new skill. It's fun. It's fun. Well, what are we going to discover today? So, the more playful and open you are, the more you'll discover about your own unique gifts. All right. So, let's quickly recap what we've covered today. We talked about the importance of letting go of preconceived notions about what channeling should look like. We are not all super clairvoyant, and that's great because we don't want to be like everybody. It's all about identifying your dominant clairsense and leaning into how you naturally receive intuitive insights. And don't forget, consistent practice is key. I don't know if I said that yet, but consistency is really important. Just throwing it out there. The more you work with your gifts, guys, the stronger they'll become. So please remember, there's no one size fits all approach when it comes to channeling. We each have a very unique journey, and everybody channels in their own way, and that's exactly how it should be. Your unique style is perfect for you. Now, if you're feeling ready to dive deeper into your channeling journey and you want some help, my Soul Gifts and Purpose reading is chef's kiss for that. You'll learn about your purpose. You'll learn about your soul gifts, which, by the way, are not your intuitive senses. And then you'll also learn about your dominant clairsense or clairsenses and how they manifest for you. It is a mini version of the Akashic Soul Blueprint reading. And then the Akashic Soul Blueprint reading is also amazing for gaining clarity and confidence in your spiritual gifts. And that goes into past lives, blocks, current life blocks. We actually do some energy clearing, clear your Akashic records. We talk about your purpose, how you express your gifts, what your gifts are, potential vocations based on your gifts and your strengths. We talk about coaching. We talk about, I think I already said blocks and patterns that are hindering you. We talk about it's so much. It's so much. And then, yeah, these readings, the two that I just mentioned, the Soul Gifts and Purpose, and then the Akashic Soul Blueprint reading, they're designed to help you to understand and really embrace your intuitive strengths and your soul gifts and just who you are as an eternal spiritual being. And then I also do channeled Akashic Records readings, which is just an open live session where I'm connected to your Akashic Records and we're having a conversation. You're asking questions. I'm channeling the answers. It's a fun time. Feels really nice. It's a very high frequency container. It's a really good feeling. So I encourage you guys, check out those sessions. And if you're into energy healing, I do a motion code energy healing. There's a book all about it if you're interested. I also did a podcast episode about it. It's one of my earlier ones. All right, guys. So in the next episode, I will be talking about the relationship between intuition and energy work and how you can strengthen both of them to live a more aligned life. And then after that, I also have an episode dedicated to finding your psychic type and embracing your unique intuitive gifts. And I'm super excited about both of these episodes. They're just jam-packed with valuable information, and I love talking about all of it. Okay. Thank you so very much for spending this time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please be sure to subscribe and share it with somebody who could use these insights. I appreciate every single one of you for being here, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts or any questions you might have. So feel free to DM me on Instagram at Spirituality with Ashley, or you can email me at support@ashleybrickhouse.com. Stay mindful, stay focused, and keep believing in yourself. Until next time, keep dreaming big and living your best life. See you in the next episode.